Welcome to Decoded Dialogues, where tech talks and stories spark transformation. Today, we are discussing the future and evolution of Oracle EPM and AI in financial planning with two incredible guests, Kaci Coble and Chris Muli. I'm your host, Crystal Fernandez. In today's fast-moving and unpredictable business world, leaders are under pressure to make smarter decisions and make them fast. That's where Oracle EPM comes in. It's not just a tool, it's becoming a strategic engine for automation, scalability, and insight across global organizations. In this episode, we're going to dig into how it's being used in the real world, what challenges companies face when adopting it, and the innovations that are shaping the future of enterprise performance. And of course, we can't talk about the future without talking about AI. It's quickly becoming a core part of financial planning and performance management. So, we're going to get into the real-world impact, the ethical side of AI, and how to build trust in AI-driven forecasts, and what the next 3 to 5 years might look like as these technologies come together. So, if you're wondering, how does this apply to my organization? Stay tuned. We're about to break it down with practical takeaways you can use. Hi, Kaci. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into Oracle and how did you get here?
So thank you so much for having us. Again, my name is Kaci Coble and I lead our EPM sales organization here at Oracle. I actually started in this space with a partner, focused on implementations, post-implementation support, change management, those types of services, and then eventually made the move over to Oracle directly to then represent the software side versus the services side. So I was here during the Hyperion days, which is an important part of our history and our legacy here in the space. Left Oracle some years ago and went and spent time with two other vendors in the EPM and EPM adjacent space. And then recently came back about 2.5 years ago to lead this organization across North America. And I probably wouldn't have come back and wouldn't be nearly as successful in this organization had it not been for my beloved partner, Chris Muli, running our pre-sales organization. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you and your barking dog in the background.
Thanks, Kaci. Yeah, really, she has to be part of this podcast. She's got a voice as well as I do. But name is Chris Muli. I've been with Oracle. It'll be 29 years in January. The journey has been, I think, interesting. It's a great story to tell over a drink in terms of how I got in the door. But as I've been here for 29 years, I've traveled through a lot of different organizations in the business, working in our technology organization originally, moving into different areas of our applications business. I worked in our CX business, our supply chain team, but have always been really focused on the Office of Finance. That's where my background was in school and really what my passion is. For the last 20, I've been leading teams here at Oracle around EPM and the Hyperion business. I run North America, as Kaci said, for pre-sales. I've loved the path I've taken, and I love the amount of time I get to spend with customers, kind of working through problems and the challenges they're trying to clean up as they automate and try to improve their efficiencies and how they operate their businesses.
You both have fantastic backgrounds. Thank you again for joining me today. So let's kind of jump into this, right? So let's talk about strategic impact, right? How is Oracle EPM transforming enterprise decision making in today's volatile business environment?
Yeah, I'll dive right in.
Thank you.
I think our customers and prospective clients have been coming to us for years saying, we want to be this strategic engine, not just this reporting function. And they've got these wonderful goals. If we want to do all of this, these rolling forecasts and all this driver-based planning, and, we want to expedite the close process to get those actuals more quickly so that we can then turn that into actionable plans. But I think the reality has been there are only so many hours in the day. There's only so much that people can do. There's so much data that organizations are creating and need to try to consolidate and make sense of to then analyze and report and go make decisions and take action. And so I think the exciting thing about what AI is bringing into the business, but B, what Oracle is helping our customers with by being a strategic partner that owns the full stack, that has the computing power. I think we're actually now able to help our customers with the business process and functions, but then use AI to bring that automation to allow them to scale and give them more time to do those strategic activities instead of having to slog through the mundane. I really think of artificial intelligence as kind of automation intelligence. Where can you automate? Where can you scale? Where can you let the machines do what the machines can do and then allow your people to apply their kind of critical thinking on top of that? So Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you kind of started hitting on one of my key points, which is the ability to break down barriers. I think if you look at historically the different structures inside of finance, controllership, tax, treasury, finance, FP&A, one of the things that most businesses struggle with is managing the data through those different functions to get to the key decisions and making sure you can mitigate what's good for one being good for the other. And the operation of, in silos sometimes creates a natural conflict amongst them. But I think what's interesting and a great opportunity moving forward is we're seeing customers start to standardize on a common platform. So people are seeing data move through the entirety of the finance function as opposed to simply their individual function or silo. And I think that's where you're able to make better, more strategic decisions for the business as opposed to a specific function within the business.
Could you share an impactful use case maybe that you've seen before with Oracle EPM and financial planning analysis? Any of that?
Yeah, I'll start off here. I have a favorite. I mean, I have a lot of favorites because our customers are doing a lot of really
Sure.
interesting things with the software, which is one of the most fun parts of the job is seeing how this technology that we position ends up deploying. So I'll give you one. There's a customer we have. I'll leave the names out, but they deployed to over 2,000 users globally to the individual kitchens in which they operate. They operate concession stands. They operate cafeterias. So when you go to a hospital or you go to your favorite sports venue or you go to your favorite theme park, they are probably operating the kitchen that's serving you the different fried goodies that come out of those different places. And they were able to drive our application all the way down to the kitchen so that people could enter in their budgets for the week. So they understood, are we profitable and are we operating effectively at a specific site anywhere in their entire theater? And I think that's incredibly powerful and speaks to why cloud first was really advantageous, because there was no installs left to do. It's just click a browser, enter a few numbers. It calculates the whole P&L for them, and they're able to operate efficiently and then get back to doing their job, which is operating a kitchen as
Right.
opposed to a budget or a forecast. So for me, that was one of our best cases because of the scale of the deployment and the outcome, the really valuable outcome at such a micro level in the organization, I think was really fun to see go live.
That is a
Casey, what do you got?
great example.
Yeah, I was looking at some data this morning, and 67% of CFOs say that their organizations are using scenario planning to manage volatility. I think what that statistic doesn't say is how many man hours and woman hours are going into building those scenario plans, because they're generally extremely manual. And then as soon as the team works so hard, nights and weekends, to put together all the scenarios, they take them to the CFO, and then CFO says, "Hmm, okay, can you change like these two things and let me know what that would be?" But those two things, again, take so much
Mm.
time and labor. And, we know that customers that are using our predictive models can increase their forecast accuracy by some 30%. So again, it's taking, how do we automate? We're not taking the people out of the process, but how do we bring the right data together in a way that is really digestible, and then even have the application start to summarize and create some narratives and say, "Hey, we noticed these anomalies and we've detected these things, and maybe hey, let me point you to the data where the supplemental and supporting detail might live," and then let them perform that analysis and take those plans forward. So, the work is getting done today. I think customers can use Oracle's Cloud EPM application and AI to just expedite it and remove a lot of the manual effort out of these processes.
And that's so impactful, right? In the day-to-day operations. That gives people so much time back to do their actual jobs, not just digging through the data. So let's talk adoption. What are the most prominent challenges that organizations are facing when looking to adopt Oracle EPM right now?
Ooh, I think, yeah, for me, I think we still see a lot of the classic obstacles, which is like change management. Just the classic "who moved my cheese." People are very accustomed to how they do things, and when you introduce a new way to do it, it disrupts their day job and disrupts their routine. And so, I think one of the biggest obstacles to successful projects and successful deployments is people accepting that things will change and the whole hope is that they change for the positive, even if they're not what we're used to, ideally. And ultimately, the plan is always to get more efficient and more effective than you were, but that does require some change. So I think, it's one of the most important aspects of a project, and generally one of the first things that I see slip in the project plan is taking the time to manage the human in the process, the people change, because the tech is kind of the easier part, in my opinion. It's really kind of making sure people feel comfortable that they know what was deployed and how it's going to help them, and then spending the time just to learn it and to kind of retrain on what's going to be best for me moving forward as something new is in my toolbox.
The training and adoption, those are
Yeah,
those are big.
Yeah.
indeed. And, it's tricky because executives want to make sure that these projects aren't too disruptive, right? You don't, because to Chris's point, any change, even if it's good change, there's still a disruption, there's a learning curve, there's a stabilization period. And so a lot of times what we see happen is, in an effort to minimize disruption, folks just do sort of a lift and shift. Well, here's how we're doing it today. Let's just implement it that way and do it that way in the new tool. And then once we get in, then we'll enhance and we'll drive all these new features. And next thing you know, 3 years has gone by and they come around to their renewal and they're like, darn, we got really busy running our business and we never made those enhancements. And so we're trying to get people to understand that we can partner with you in a really unique way, especially with some of our implementation kind of success programs and things that we do along with our development organization, to say, you don't have to lift and shift. You don't I also have to lift and transform, but let's at least like lift and enhance. Let's find
Right.
those quick wins, some of the low hanging fruit. And we always tell customers, don't feel like you need to build that roadmap yourself, because there may be things that you think are really nice to have that would be so hard to achieve. But with the technology today, that may be something really easy that we could turn on for you in a matter of weeks. Whereas some of the things that you might think are simple may take a lot more configuration. So we really like to partner with our customers to say, give us the absolute ideal future state, and then we're going to help you understand the level of effort and the return on those investments. And start small. You got to get quick wins. You got to get people comfortable with it. And I think I see a lot of organizations starting to adopt AI in less critical functions to sort of dip their toe in the water. And I think that's great, because when it comes to how critical finance and accounting are, I think organizations having some experience with AI, maybe in the HCM space or somewhere else,
Yeah.
gets them a little bit more comfortable bringing it into finance and accounting.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I've seen that myself in our business and day-to-day operations as well. I love use cases. So can you maybe share a couple examples, or a good example, right, of Oracle EPM scale across global operations and multi-entity organizations? That's hard. It's a hard one, I know.
Well, Chris, I may let you take this one because I'm trying to run through my head of if I can name anyone publicly or if we just need to speak
Even
about
if you can, you can speak
directionally.
anonymously about them, but I'd love to just to hear how that's how that's worked.
Yeah, I think
Chris,
there's another multi-thousand seat project where a hotel operator, right? We'll leave the
Yeah,
names out instead
sure.
of a handful, but another, it's a global operation, and being able to capture all the metrics in terms of how many open rooms they have, right? How many guests they're going to be serving at the property level, right, was rolled up hotel by hotel. And you don't really necessarily consider that single driver of how many people are checked in for the night, what kind of impact that has on services. But if you think about it as a guest, even, they have to consider all of their staffing decisions based off how many people are in the occupancy rate of the hotel. So if I know my occupancy is 50%, that has a massive impact on what I do in my bars and my restaurants in the
Absolutely.
property. If I buy too much food and I have to throw it away, that's sunk cost and disappears from my P&L. So the better you can control your planning function in terms of your occupancy rate in an individual property, the better I can then start forecasting out, well, how much food do we need for this week, next week, the following week, so that we're not throwing anything away. We're reducing waste and therefore driving better profitability. So that was one of the better stories I saw, and that was a global deployment. And again, it wasn't one size fits all, meaning one app for every single brand and every single continent. They provided flexibility in the architecture, which I think is really important in terms of how we deploy and deliver, is that we provide a platform that fits your needs. It doesn't dictate how it should be deployed. It gives you the flexibility to choose, and a platform that can share. So if I'm running 4 separate, global theaters, you can run those independently if you'd like, and then aggregate them up to get, top side results. So Now, those are the kinds of global projects we see an awful lot. I think that's one thing that we see at Oracle is we see a lot of the really big and the really complex, and those are
Yeah.
some of the most fun because they do drive, great benefit, great value at the end of the day when we go to look at value realization and outcomes from a deployment like
That's a
that.
great example, Chris. Thank you. And Kaci, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, when I think about, I mean, I'm thinking about rental car company customers, airline customers,
Sure.
distribution, global manufacturing. So many of these big customers are coming to mind. And I think about when we were first engaging with them, they talk about, yes, we've got to close the books, we've got to build a plan, but we want to get to profitability. We want to get to really detailed levels of profitability. And in order to do that, you generally need to bring together a lot of data from a lot of different places. And so I think that sort of master data management, the data quality management, understanding SKUs and customers and locations and all of those things. I think that's a really interesting element that Oracle brings to our EPM customers is we're not just a niche standalone EPM vendor. Um, we're bringing to our customers really sophisticated and advanced enterprise data management capabilities that go far beyond just the Oracle EPM applications. And when we think about source systems and operational systems and unifying that data, that's what I mean by, okay, of course you've got to report, you got to close the books, you got to build your budget, you got to, do that variance analysis. But let's talk about that profitability and cost management and cash forecasting and those things that are really going to move the needle. And I believe that with our depth and breadth of capabilities and what we bring to our customers from a technology, infrastructure, cloud compute perspective, really uniquely positioned to help some of the most global and complex organizations do that, but also still not too big to help much smaller organizations accomplish what they need to as well.
Now that we've gotten, a baseline of EPM, let's talk about what innovations are on the horizon for Oracle EPM. Are there any features you're particularly excited about for the application? But then also let's dig into the AI piece too, because I'm really interested to hear about what's happening in that space. And I know we have AI World coming up, and so I know we're going to hear some more about it then. But I would love to hear what you're working on right now.
I think obviously it's AI everywhere, right? Is the general theme. But personally, one of the things I'm really excited about is a lot of the agentic based chat insight insight exploration assistance, going back to kind of native language prompting of data and having it just give you visualizations. I think that's going to be really exciting because the worst thing is, we have to do is train people on how to use the software. I see a day where there's the training curve is going to disappear. If you can type the question into a chat-based interface, a chat GPT like interface, and the agents behind the scenes do all the heavy lifting to assemble for you, to query for you, to generate for you, it's going to change the way we consume data. So I'm really excited about some of the insight exploration assistance and some of the agentic AI that we're going to be deploying over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're heading in a direction of making EPM really intuitive and intelligent, not just automated. So, to Chris's point, I mean, I even think about in my personal life. Yesterday, I was going to throw some chicken breast on the smoker to make some chicken salad for lunch this week. And I wanted to Google how long should I smoke it and at what temperature is ideal, just to make sure that my recipe
Sure.
makes sense. And Google via Siri responds and says, "Oh, make sure you cook it to 165 internal temp." And I'm like, I'm already finding myself frustrated with Google responses, and I want the Chat GPT response that says, based on these 5 grill masters, they recommend these things and try this and do that. And so the people are going to start expecting that from their EPM applications. They want to ask, hey, why did my margins drop in Q2? And just have the tool tell them that. And so
Yeah.
I think, again, I would encourage customers as you're thinking about how to select your EPM partner for the future. A lot of folks get caught in the, AI is a future state for us. I got to focus on the blocking and tackling of what are my requirements today. And I always encourage customers, yes, your basic fundamental needs today are very important. And we need to demonstrate to you that we can handle those. But you need to be selecting a vendor that 3 years from now, when you're ready to really start adopting those advanced features, you need to be signing up and deploying with a partner that has all that available today so that the stability and the enhancement and the pace of innovation is there so that you have it at your fingertips. Because if you get 3 years down the road to your renewal and go, no, the blocking and tackling is great, but this partner, there are a lot of extra costs associated with AI and the compute power and to build the models. And, I didn't realize all this was kind of hidden when I was just focused on show me how you close a consolidate and do currency translations. So you have to think about, don't just buy the house you need as a newlywed. You kind of got to think a little bit about, well, where can we set ourselves up for at least that first kid and that dog and kind of get the starter home to then advance from there. So it's important to buy for what you need today, but also where things are going to be in 3 years, which things are going to be fundamentally different in 6 months and 12 months, much less 3 years from now.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
a
such a
basic analogy,
that
right?
yeah, it's such a great point.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I think we see a lot. I've done a couple of events where even the questions I'm asked now, I'm pushing back on a little with customers because they'll ask, well, tell me all about agentic AI for finance, or tell me all about agentic AI for accounting. And I'll answer very politely and say, no, because that's not what agentic AI is about. What we're going to see in the next probably 3 to 5 years, probably in the next 1 to 3 years, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest,
Yeah.
is a complete blurring of the lines across these processes. We're going to see a shattering of the silos. It's not going to be HR and finance and supply chain. You're going to see chat-based interfaces and agents who don't care where they work. They're not finance agents or HR agents. They're just agents, and they will do whatever work you need them to do in whatever data set, whether that's a supply chain data set, looking at inventory statistics or headcount statistics coming out of HR. It doesn't care where that data comes from. And so when we think about where AI is going, and as a vendor, when you think about where you want to go or who you want to go with, you have to think about those who can serve a much broader function than simply the blocking and tackling that Kaci mentioned, because she's dead on, right? You might get what you had last year or 5 years ago. You might even get what you want right now, but that isn't going to be what you need in 1 to 3 and 5 years. Things are just changing at a pace. Again, 29 years of the business, I've never seen things move this quickly. Never. And
I'm
that's a
I'm I'm with you,
reasonably
Chris.
large.
Things are changing at such a rapid pace that I think it's part of the reason why we're having this conversation today, right? Because people need to start planning for the future. And to your point, Kaci, you're not just buying the house for today, you're buying the house long term, right? And you want to be able to.
Yeah. Otherwise, just go rent, right? But like when
Right.
you're in these, I mean, these are big decisions because
Right.
even though we say, and customers know that in this cloud-based world, which is very different than the on-premise days of capitalizing the licenses and deploying, and you're not going anywhere for a long time. Here, it's like, yes, you have a renewal in 3 years, but do you really want to go through another implementation and changing vendors and then losing those 3 years of trends and history that you could be transacting in the tool now so that when you're ready, you've got all that history there. They are important decisions. And, the AI, it really needs to be explainable. And I hear a lot of niche vendors in the market say, oh, you don't need any data scientists, just subscribe to us and we'll do it all for you. But when you really start to peel back the layers of what they're providing, a lot of it is just predictive capabilities that have been around since before AI was the big hot
Sure.
topic. Um, it doesn't give that transparent reasoning and driving you, taking you right back to the source data. Because there's kind of the point of transaction and the point of enrichment and then the point of action and decision, and taking you through the life cycle of the data is no small task. And I think that where we're also uniquely positioned with Oracle Cloud EPM is that when you think about breaking, I mean, Chris opened with talking about AI helping break down some of the barriers across different departments and different functions. We're helping some very large global organizations with their strategic workforce planning. And that is just as much of an HCM HR activity as it is an EPM exercise. And
100%.
we need to help those groups speak to one another. Same thing near and dear to my heart, sales and quota and territory planning, also helping some very, very large global organizations start to manage those components as well. And that's bringing in CRM data and HCM data and information from all these different places. And so where we're unique is that you may run those other functions within Oracle as well. And then even better, because these systems are siblings, but as Hyperion was and as Cloud EPM is today, we are still data source agnostic. So if you use every other competitor for every one of those other functions, we can still add the same value and the same connectivity for you and help you manage the data relationships across those different tools. So it really is just continuing to encourage customers, try to strike that balance of, yes, what do you need today? But help us anticipate what you're going to need in a couple of years. And again, make sure you're investing with that vendor that is investing in that innovation roadmap, because that's going to set you apart, you customers, from your competition.
Agreed. Let's talk about ethics and trust. There is a big topic out there right now. So, what are the ethical considerations when using AI in financial planning and performance management?
Yeah, I would say that it is so critically important that customers understand when you are and I'll speak just specifically from the EPM lens,
Sure.
that you're looking at, where are the vendors that I'm considering? Where are they hosting the data? What vendors are they having to move this data out to, and in what data centers, and what are their processes? Because when one person's providing the application, another person's providing the compute power and the architecture and the databases and all that, to me, there's going to be some inherent cost and maybe some additional risk there.
Sure.
So I think that Oracle is very uniquely positioned in what we're doing, where when we're interacting with your data, it is completely segregated. It is your data. The data is not learning. Our LLMs aren't learning from other models and using your data to inform those things. We're really putting strong and clear boxes around your private data and information, what we can see, what we can't see, um, and being very secure, transparent about that process. So it is something, and we've even seen some customers get into that portion of the evaluation where they're really trying to understand AI and the ethics and security, and they delay their entire project because they're like, we need to take a step back with our own legal compliance IT teams and make sure that we're comfortable. So it's certainly something that I think folks need to do their due diligence on. But given the scope and scale of the organizations, both federal, commercial, et cetera, that have trusted their data with Oracle, I think we've certainly got a strong track record for being very ethical and compliant when it comes to that. But Chris, any thoughts on the ethics and compliance of this new world we're living in with AI?
Yeah, I think it's in. I probably have I probably looked at this question or look at this question a little differently. I was thinking from a there's an employee trust question to be asked and or answered around AI, and that's kind of where I think about this is as we talk about AI, there's a very healthy skepticism slash concern. Like I have executives who are like, I love this and I want it tomorrow. And there are a lot of people who do the job that some of this technology does, and they are incredibly nervous about what that means for their careers.
Absolutely.
And so trust in AI is an interesting conversation. I think, there's no question AI is going to disrupt roles. No question at all. But I have a great customer story if we have time that I'll share,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think this is one of my favorite early stories about the usage of predictive and automation and its ability to free up resource. So we have a customer who has spoken publicly, and they started using our predictive algorithms and our auto predict capabilities. So yeah, AI was doing the forecasting that prior people did. And they found that for 4 of their 5 divisions, the predictive out of the box was far more accurate than the human. And for the 5th division, it wasn't at all.
Okay.
And so you had this really interesting case of, well, okay, 80% of the use cases, the technology can just do it for us. And the answer to that is, so let it. And then take the people who were doing the stuff the tech does easily and let them work on the fun, hard stuff that the tech is struggling with. And so it doesn't have to be, will it replace me? It can and should be, what easy or mundane stuff that I don't want to do can it do for me, so that I can go lean into the really difficult problems and questions that shape our business. And that's what they did. They started restaffing people and saying, I don't need you here. The tech can do this for us at a lower cost and a faster pace, but I do need you to go spend time here because we're struggling to figure out the problems that are providing this variability in this other business unit. And I think, so from a trust perspective, that's, there's a little bit of the business trust and the tech trust that is starting to pop up as AI becomes more pervasive and used. Like we're starting to see that it does in fact do the things we hope it would do. And that's scary, but it also opens up different and new opportunities that I think are exciting for a lot of people.
So it's
And I
more,
think from the human element of like, how do we work with it and how do we interact with it? I think most people have experienced if you ask ChatGPT a question, the quality of your question is going to drive the quality of the answer. And then the quality of your follow on questions and the no, look at it this way. Or are you, I mean, there have been times where I get an answer and I'm like, are you sure about that? And then it's like, oh, let me go look. And it's like, oh, no, you're right. Okay. Actually, there is data to support this other thing. So we cannot take it as this all knowing, all perfect being. The quality of the questions, the quality of the follow on questions, those are the things that keep humans valuable. Because again, I think we need to think of AI as much more automation than really replacing us in the critical thought. I appreciated this stat by Gartner that I saw the other day that said 70% of finance tasks will be AI assisted by 2028. Not AI replaced, not AI has taken over and you don't have a job. And let's also be frank, the mundane manual work, people don't actually enjoy doing that.
right.
That's the stuff that leads to frustration and burnout and then errors because people are tired and frustrated from doing so many things manually. I mean, I think about even practically simply, we use AI in our meetings, and Chris and I hold internal meetings with our teams all the time. And one of our historical problems was coming out of it and making sure, did we all capture the right action items with the right follow-ups and the who owns what? And now to just have all of us able to just critically think and then have AI tell us afterward, hey, here's what you all talked about. Here's who needs to do what and by when. And like, it's that sort of automation that frees us up to do what the machines can't do, which is apply logic and critical thought and even some emotion to the situation and make good decisions. So I love that the language is now AI assisted and not kind of AI replaced, because I don't think that's really where we're going.
Yeah, and to both of your points, I think that like you were saying, I don't know that it's going to replace people. I think it's going to elevate people. It's going to put them in a position to really be more creative and to shine in a different way. They're not going to be bogged down or inhibited by the mundane. So that's really exciting to see that that's what's happening in the space right now.
Mhm.
How do you see the convergence of AI and EPM evolving over, I don't know, next year, 6 months, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I think that people are going to be talking to their EPM applications in plain English, which is going to be very exciting. I can see forecast self-adjusting as new data arrives instead of having to wait on when do I have time to go notice the data and input it and then reforecast and make sense of all of it. I think the systems are going to provide much more prescriptive guidance. So not just here's what happened, but here's what you could do about it. Here's some options, and then here are the impacts of those options. And overall, I just think finance is really going to become what they've always wanted to be and should be, which is a navigator of the business and not just a scorekeeper.
Yeah, I think that last point is critical, right? And Crystal, you talked about it a little bit, which is if you look at so many finance organizations, there's still an enormous amount of mundane, boring, painful work none of
Mhm.
them want to do anyway. Chasing spreadsheets, chasing data files, validating that the data is actually accurate. I think that AI is going to really clean a lot of that up and give us a lot more speed in the machine. It's going to allow us to go faster. And I think it's going to allow those finance professionals and operational professionals, all of us actually, to be a lot more consultative, to focus on solving business problems and not trying to chase down, okay, is this system up and running? Where does the data live? We're going to be able to actually use these systems to inform next steps. And a concept we've been talking about internally is an evolution towards exception-based finance. I could even broaden it to exception-based operations. We're not going to go chasing exceptions anymore. Exceptions are going to be served up and remediated at a pace that we've never seen before. And that's really, really exciting because nobody enjoys going through 700 rows in a spreadsheet to identify the one problem child. They just want the one problem child handed to them so they can go fix it. And that's where we see our entire, EPM and ERP and supply chain platform goals, handing you the exceptions so you can get to the work of fixing it and addressing it. So I think that's really an exciting kind of next step for where we're heading in the space.
If you're listening and thinking, how does this apply to my organization? Kaci and Chris, I'm going to ask you, can you give me like your top 3 to 5 takeaways of what organizations should be considering right now if they're thinking about um, either implementing EPM with AI, or if they're already Oracle EPM clients and they're looking to implement AI or add that into their organization or their business structure. Can you kind of give me what your takeaways would be for them to really consider and think about?
Yeah, Chris, you want to start?
Yeah, you just use the word start.
Start.
I,
Right.
I mean, that is takeaway number one, start. It is the one thing we talked about, the pace of change. I'm a big believer that everything is changing, but nothing has changed because change is constant, right? So this is just the next wave. I really do believe this is just the next wave of evolution, technology-driven evolution. We're not, as much as it's disruptive and scary, we're early in the Gartner hype cycle of all of this. At some point, this is just going to become the normal. But the longer you wait on this one, the further behind you're going to be. And just like I likened this in a recent meeting to the .com era.
Mhm.
If you waited to have an online presence, you probably don't exist anymore. And I really believe that this is the next seminal event. If you wait too long, you're not going to exist as you do today, because there are people who are embracing this, changing the way they operate and disrupting at a pace and scale that we may never see again, at least not for another 100 or 2 years.
Right. It's our industrial age for sure.
It is. It
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on that part, it's like start small and then scale smart. So lean into AI pilots and don't feel like you, as the customer, need to make all these decisions for yourself. Work with trusted partners like Oracle to say, hey, here's where I'd like to see it. Here's where I would like to hold off. Here's kind of what we're thinking. Here's where I think that we have the data to feed these models and have something meaningful come out, because connected data equals better decisions. And so working with, again, trusted partners that can help you make sense of, we don't need to bring all of this data into the EPM application or replicate all these transactions. We've got mechanisms to just read, look at, analyze, and then summarize for you and still add a tremendous amount of value. So I think it's connected data, getting your data in order, but don't let that paralyze you, because a lot of I mean, for me, the personal equivalent of getting my data in order would be like cleaning all of the closets and drawers in my house. It sounds terrible. Therefore, I'm just not even going to start, and I'm going to wait until I have to move or there's some big compelling event. And then it's terrible, because if I would have cleaned it all out before I started the move, it would be much more manageable. And so it's kind of that notion of working internally to don't let it prevent you from getting started, but good data makes for good decisions, and we want to help you collect data from really interesting data sources across the organization to have a more complete picture of your reality, to then have AI start to make some sense of those things. Um, you know, trust and transparency matter, and they're important. So do that due diligence with your vendors to understand, where's the data going to go, where's it going to live, what am I going to see, who's going to see what. Make sure that all that is manageable. But I would really encourage not to scare leaders, but because a lot of organizations are trying to put really hard guardrails up around asking their employees not to use Chat GPT and some of the free public chat agents. But a lot of folks are craving that level of automation and support. And so they're putting some some of your organization's data into those types of applications. So the sooner you can bring it into the enterprise applications and keep it within your guardrails, again, to Chris's point, you're going to be ahead of the curve. You're going to be above your competitors. So I think it's good data. It's starting small and scaling the right way. I mean, Chris, we were just talking on Friday about how, to your point, we'll have some customers say, tell me about all the agents and the generative this and the agentic that, and impress me with all the things you're doing with AI. And we're like, well, are you all doing like a rolling forecast today? No, absolutely not. Are you doing any driver based? No, tops down or bottom, whatever. That's it. And so what you're doing currently, and get a little bit more advanced, get a little bit more sophisticated with what you're doing now. And that's going to better prepare you to then move into AI, because it feels like a lot of people are like, we're going to just stay here with our rusty bicycle and then we're going to wait and jump into the spaceship in 3 years. And like, let's get you into a nice entry level car, and then let's advance together and slowly. So I think planning out that roadmap is important.
That's great information. So just looking ahead, what's a final thought for leaders who are preparing for the next wave of this digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, to Chris's earlier point, I think that this digital transformation we're seeing in finance is not about replacing people. It's giving them better tools to see around the corners. And when you do that, you're going to get a greater investment for what is probably your largest cost, which are your people. And overall, I mean, companies win when they make better, faster decisions with confidence. And when finance is kind of the head of strategy and not just reporting on, oops, we made this decision operationally and here's the outcome of it. So I think it is embracing how do we do more with what we have? How do we make sure that we're utilizing our human capital and our capital from a predictive cash perspective, all of that? How do you make sure that all of your resources are working as efficiently and effectively for your organization as possible? And you're going to do that through transparency and visibility and automation, which is exactly what Oracle is bringing our customers across the board, especially in EPM, and something that we're really enjoying partnering with our customers on today.
That's great. And Chris, final
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I got a couple here. I think first, ensure your AI efforts, whatever they are, ensure they're actually aligned to a business outcome. What are you trying to solve for? If you're running restaurants or hotels, or you build parts for cars or heavy equipment, that's what you do for a living. How is the technology helping you do that more efficiently, more effectively? How are you selling more, spending less? It really does come back down to the basics. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's making sure that when business leaders are thinking about this technology capability, they're thinking about it through the lens of outcomes and results to support my business, not as science projects to test and experiment with, because ultimately this really is just a continued technological evolution, not a revolution that will, reshape their specific business. It will support their business, but it doesn't fundamentally change what they're in business to do. And I think that's really, really critical, is keeping that in the center of your thinking. Don't look at AI as a science project because we have to do AI. You're looking at this technology to drive outcomes in your business. And if you keep that at the center, to Kaci's earlier point, you can identify where you can get better, faster, cheaper, and take advantage without, getting caught up in some of the trappings of, master data and fixing everything before we start fixing anything. So that's just something I think is really critical.
That's absolutely spot on, for sure. As we wrap up today's conversation, one thing is clear. The future of enterprise performance management is intelligent, integrated, and increasingly AI driven. From automation to ethics, from scalability to innovation, Kaci and Chris have given us a powerful lens into what is possible with Oracle EPM and how leaders can prepare for the next wave of digital transformation. Kaci and Chris, thank you so much for being on today and helping us shape what's next. I appreciate both of you.
Well, thanks for your time, Crystal. This was great.
Thank you so much.
So, what should you be thinking about as you look ahead? Stay curious, stay agile, and most importantly, stay intentional about how technology supports your strategy. Thanks for tuning in into Decoded Dialogues. Please like and share and subscribe. And until next time, keep decoding the future. Thank you.